Mr. Speaker, Canadians are terrified. Last year, we witnessed the largest number of murders in Canadian history. 15 Canadians are being murdered every single week. Since the Prime Minister took office, gang-related killings have doubled. Instead of fighting crime with tougher punishment, the Liberals are making it easier for criminals to get back on our streets to reoffend. Will this Liberal government stop their soft-on-crime agenda?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, nothing could be further from the truth. What this party is doing, Mr. Speaker, what we're doing in a variety of our policies, is focusing our judicial and our police resources on serious crime, Mr. Speaker, with anti-gang measures, with tougher laws on guns, and, Mr. Speaker, by eliminating certain minimum mandatory penalties and allowing for conditional sentence orders in cases where there is no threat to public security, such that we can actually use those resources on serious crime. Mr. Speaker, serious crime will always carry with it serious consequences. That's a more just and equitable solution.
Member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, our Justice Minister is tone deaf. Despite their arbitrary bans and complicated buyback program, gun crime has gone up steadily every year since the Liberals were elected. Gun smugglers, drug traffickers, drive-by shooters, and kidnappers can thank this Liberal government because now they can serve their sentence in the comfort of their own homes. Once again, will these Liberals stop its soft-on-crime policy and focus on making our streets safer?
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's somewhat surprising to hear from that colleague from the Conservative Party take issue with the $137 million that we've just invested in the CBSA to further tackle illegal smuggling, which the Conservatives voted against. So let's stack their record against the record of this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, which is one that will continue to equip CBSA with the tools they need to tackle gun smuggling, which is one that will raise maximum sentences against hardened criminals who traffic and terrorize our communities with guns, Mr. Speaker, and one that will also address root causes of gun crime. $250 million for the Building Safer Communities Fund. Mr. Speaker, it's time for the Conservatives to get on the right side of this issue, and that's now.
The Honourable Member, l'Honourable Député de Charlebourg.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Laval Police has just launched a major inquiry on armed violence with 150 officers, including officers from the Sûreté de Québec, the RCMP, and other services. Everyone is working together to fight armed violence, except this Prime Minister. His strategy of being lenient on criminals has caused an increase of 32% in violent crime throughout the country. Does the Prime Minister realize that he's contradicting all police services when he says that a member of organized crime firing an illegal weapon is not a serious crime? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, that is exactly why we brought in Bill C-21. And that is a bill where the Conservatives keep creating problems and getting it through. We need to get it passed to target these organized crime groups and bring in more severe, targeted sentences on criminals. It also offers new tools for our police services. We will continue to bring in common sense pieces of legislation to increase.
Speaker, recent statistics tell us that this liberal, soft-on-crime approach has failed. People in my community are tired of being victimized. They're afraid to walk alone at night. They're afraid for their children. And they should be worried. Gang-related homicides are up 92%. And this Liberal government's reaction? House arrest for violent gun criminals. When will this Liberal government realize that their soft-on-crime approach has failed?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada.
Mr. Speaker, nothing can be further from the truth. What we are doing with our various policies, Mr. Speaker, is ensuring that serious crime always gets treated seriously, and that we have a fight against gangs, that we strengthen our border measures in order to take serious crime seriously. Mr. Speaker, former Supreme Court Justice Michael Moldaver implored us to spend less resources on parts of the criminal justice system where there was no threat to public safety, and that we shouldn't be incarcerating people at that end of the spectrum. That's what Bill C-5 does. Mr. Speaker, nobody can accuse Michael Moldaver of ever being soft on crime.
The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
No threat to public safety from people who do drive-by shootings, who can now serve their sentence on house arrest? I don't think so, Mr. Speaker. These Liberals have taken a sledgehammer to 20 years of reductions in violent crime. Homicides are up. Violent crime is up. But one thing, if this Liberal government has a say, will be down, and that is sentencing for gun crimes. When will this Liberal government end their soft-on-crime approach and keep Canadians safe?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, given the advanced stage at which Bill C-21 is being debated by the Standing Committee on Public Safety, I would have hoped my colleague would have seen that the government proposes to raise maximum sentences against hardened criminals who would terrorize our communities with the drive-by shootings that he describes in his question, Mr. Speaker. And in addition to that, I'm somewhat surprised that the Conservatives did not support the fall economic statement where we invested an additional $137 million to stop the illegal smuggling that he's concerned about, Mr. Speaker. The only thing the Conservatives have put on the table is they want to make assault-style rifles legal again, and that's wrong, Mr. Speaker. They need to be sure that they're on the right side of this issue. Thank you.
Honorable député de Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Le nombre
Mr. Speaker, the number of homicides is on the rise in Canada. 788 cases in 2021. That's 2 cases a day. In Quebec, there were 88 homicides, a number that is also on the rise. This is the highest national rate since this Prime Minister took office. The Liberals have failed in their duty to ensure that Canada is a country where citizens feel safe. Will this government finally do its job and protect Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the short answer is yes. That is exactly why we introduced Bill C-21 that offered more tools for police services. Surveillance tools to disrupt criminal organizations that want to illegally import firearms. That is exactly why we propose to increase the level of sanctions and penalties for organized crime, and I hope the Conservatives will finally support that bill. Thank you.
The député de...
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, Canadians feel less and less safe in their communities, and yet this government is doing absolutely nothing to help them. That's the case of women who need to go out at night. They lowered penalties for certain violent crimes. This clemency from Liberals is imprudent and is endangering Canadians' lives. When will they do the right thing and deal harshly with violent crime? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, everyone is concerned about victims, especially women who are disproportionately impacted by crimes involving weapons. That's why our latest bill introduces a protocol to better protect women. So when will the Conservatives finally support this important initiative from the government to better protect all Canadians? The time is now.